Hello, bonjour, kia ora. I am Peter Mathias and this is my stuck at home video post. So today, first of all, we're going to talk about Shed Couture, which is sustainable fashion, the book that I'm writing at the moment. And then I'm going to tell you a story from my latest book, Eat Your Heart Out, Unusual Love Stories. And this story is a Maori myth. So the dress is Trelise Cooper. Wool. The earrings are Italian. And they are stones and embroidery, which is kind of done onto a leather backing. Michelle Obama has some too. I mean, I know I'm more famous than her, but I thought I would just throw that in. The shoes, which I absolutely adore but can hardly walk in anymore, are also Italian, and I bought them in Paris. Check out that point, baby. But it's not a really high heel, which is great. Aren't they fabulous? So the story today is the story of Uenuku, who was a Maori warrior, and his love, the mist girl, Hinepukohurangi, who from now on I will call Hine because it takes too long to say her full name. This is an evaporating love story. There are many evaporating love stories in mythology. You maybe even have an evaporating love story in your very own life. I grew up with many Maori myths in New Zealand, and they are a way of teaching an essential truth, like a parable. You know, a story is never just a story in Maori mythology. It has a message that it needs to convey. And in this story, the message that needs to be conveyed is a bit more humility would have gone a long way. Anyway, so the tangata whenua, which for my overseas viewers means the people of the land of New Zealand, the Maori always say if you don't know where you come from, then you can't know who you are. It's very, very important to Maori to have their land and to have their stories and their histories, because it gives them and everybody else a very strong sense of identity. So we have Uenuku, the warrior. He was hunting for pigeons. He was skirting the lake. The time to hunt for pigeons is at dawn, when they're just coming out of their nests and they're not sort of terribly aware that it's actually daytime and they should be careful. That's the time to go hunting for them. So there he was on the edge of the lake, wandering, and it was misty as anything, and he was wandering along the edge of the lake. And the mist was particularly strong in one part of the lake, and he was staring at it and saying to himself, God, I wonder what that is. And he got closer and closer. He went right to the edge of the lake, and he realized as he got close that it was actually two women swimming and playing together, and they were surrounded by this thick mist. And so he said to them, who are you? What are you doing? Where do you come from? And the mist lifted because they were interested to find out who he was as well. And they said to him, she said, I am the mist girl. This is my sister, the rain girl. My name is Hine, and my sister's name is Hinefai. They were the daughters of the sky god and the sunset goddess. And they had come down, which they often did, from the sky to play and to swim in the lake. But they could never be out during the day. They could only be out at night. And so as soon as the dawn hit, which was when he was there looking for pigeons, they would rise in a mist back up into the sky again. But he caught them. Needless to say, he fell hopelessly in love with Hine, the most beautiful one, because she had this fabulous long silky black hair which went right down to her knees and sort of covered her modesty. Well, you know, in the sky you don't have clothes, but because she was talking to a human, she covered herself up with her hair, and she had very beautiful shining eyes. He was no schlep himself. He was pretty hot. You know, he was one of those Maori warrior guys with beautiful shiny brown skin, which he'd oiled. And he'd oiled his long hair and put it on top in a top knot, and he had a feather in it. And he had all these really hot tattoos as well. So, you know, what was not to like? They fell for each other instantly. And he said, okay, I understand. You're not human. You come from your goddesses, your thing. So I can only talk to you at dawn. So can I come back tomorrow and talk? Will you come back and talk to me again? And the sisters said, yeah, sure. Because they were kind of interested because he was pretty hot. So this went on for a few days. And finally, they were so madly in love with each other and so frustrated. And he said, I want you to be my wife. I want you to come and live with me. I want you to come to the earth and stay on the earth and live in my whare, which is Maori for house, forever. And she said, you know I can't do that. You know I can't. I'm not human. I can only exist. I can only come to earth and play around in the night. In the daytime, if I stay, I will die. So they discussed it and they discussed it and they went on and on and on, and they were so crazy about each other that finally they came to an arrangement. And he said, okay, I understand. I accept your conditions. Could you please come and be my wife just for the night and then go back to the sky every day? Would you do that? And she said, yes, I would. It would be very dangerous for me, but because I'm so in love with you, I'll do it. So that's what they did. She went back to his whare. The sister went with them, and the sister sat outside the door guarding her. And if she hadn't come out of the whare by dawn, the sister would knock on the door and say, sister, it is time for us to go home. You must come. And so the two of them would float off in a cloud of mist back up into the sky again. So this went on for months. And they were madly in love, and they spent all these fabulous nights together and everything. And one day, it became apparent that she was going to have a baby. That changed everything. He was just absolutely over the moon at the fact that there was this baby coming. But in the meantime, you know, they had to keep everything secret. Like, he couldn't tell his tribe, he couldn't tell his family, she couldn't be seen. It was a complete secret. He had to pretend that he was this tragic bachelor the whole time. So it was all very fabulous and exciting and romantic. But, you know, there were certain issues with being with a woman who could only be with you at night and that you couldn't have a proper family life with. And when she got pregnant, he said, oh my God, how fabulous. Now you must let me tell my tribe. You must surely. And she said, are you crazy? If you do this, you will lose me, you'll lose the baby, and you'll never see me again. I am serious about our pact. But he was a man, and he was weak, and he was arrogant, and he was thrilled with the fact that they were pregnant. So he started telling his brothers and a few of the guys in the tribe. And he decided to trick her. This was his downfall. This was the beginning of his end. He decided to trick her. And so he and his friends covered up all the holes in the whare, or the house, and so that no light could get in, so that he could trick her into thinking that it was still nighttime and that she didn't have to leave. Even the door, they put mud all around the door. They put mud in all the cracks because the whare was made of flax. So there were holes. So they put mud. She wakes up one morning and she thinks to herself, wow, it feels like it's time for me to leave, but it's still dark. And she sits up and he says to her, what are you doing? She says, I think it's time for me to leave. And he says, don't be ridiculous. Can't you see that it's still dark? Lie down, darling. So she lies down, but she's a little bit uneasy about it. Half an hour later, she sits bolt upright and she says, I can hear birds chirping. Something's going on. It is dawn. You've tricked me. She jumps out of bed, she bashes the door down, and she runs out. And she sees the whole tribe standing there staring at her. She's naked with her beautiful long black hair covering her body except for this gorgeous voluptuous lump that was the baby. And she turns to him and she says, I can't believe you did this. She jumps up onto the top of the whare. Whares, for people who are not New Zealanders, are shaped like this. The roofs are shaped like that. So she jumps up onto the very top of the whare with this beautiful long hair covering her. And she starts singing this really, really sad song of farewell to him in this ethereal, weird voice. He's standing there with the rest of the village staring at her, and he realizes what he's done. He realizes that his pride and his arrogance and his inability to trust in their arrangement had destroyed everything. And when she's finished the song, a mist comes and envelops her, and she rises up slowly into the sky, and he's standing there completely tragedy struck, watching her, and he never saw her again, needless to say. So how the story ends is that he becomes very depressed, realizing that he's lost her and realizing the seriousness of his betrayal and what he has done. And he spends the rest of his life wandering the earth looking for her, hoping that he hangs around lakes at dawn trying to see if there's a mist that might be her and her sister. It never happens. He becomes very, very old, and he finally dies. And he's lying down on the ground. And her father, the sky god, looks down on him and takes pity on him and says to himself, I think he's suffered enough for the mistake that he made. I'm going to turn him into a rainbow. So at the moment of his death, Uenuku is changed into a rainbow. And so when it's raining and you see a rainbow and mist outside, you will know that the mist, which is Hine, has her arms around the rainbow, which is Uenuku, and they are embracing each other forever. And that's the end of the story. Merci, kia ora, thank you, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.